What's up everyone, welcome back to another video by Eclipse, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can make something like this. So the main topic of this video is to use time plugins in order to modulate and create some really interesting design. So in this case, I wanted to show you this sequence as this is really popular today. But the more music I'm hearing for today, the more simple it is. And I believe that most of it's just synthesis oriented. And if there's any effects on those sequences, the most of those sequences are done inside the synth itself. While I really believe that implementing the third-party plugins as well, it's gonna make your sounds much better. So if I disable all the plugins over here, I have some simple synthesis of the sequence over here. As you can see, I have one basic MG oscillation over here with 16 unison voices, a bit of detune, and all of that on the filter, but filter is at the ring mode. And I do have pretty much of the chaos oscillators to the filter cutoff, to the filter variant, actually the variable, which is this one over here, which doesn't work for this type of the filter, but I was looking for interesting designs, and by switching to some of them I decided to keep it on ring. So without the ring, so what's happening on the synthesis from this side is that Lfo 1 is connected to the level 1, which is on 116, just to create this gating effect. And I want it to be really small, as I will apply a lot of time plugins later on. So the decay will become longer and longer because of the feedbacks of the delay, flanger and other plugins, which I'm going to show you in a bit. So I have also on the envelope attack on 0 from this side. And then I have a filter over here, and then with a really high resonance. So this is why also I want to use sharp. So as probably most of you know, but in these cases when we have something really short and then resonance, because resonance will create this resonance on the frequent range, and then by modulating the cutoff left and right, this peak will move and it will create some artificial, like it's playing a different notes. It's gonna be only one note all the time, as I have here just one extended note, so it's just the key root note of D. But while cutoff is moving left and right, it's like this peak is gonna move, and it will create this feeling like it's playing a random notes. So this is another thing. Then I have drive, but in general it's a standard one. I also tried to implement a little bit of pitching on the coarse pitch, but I decided to keep it just like this. And now I'm gonna move to the time plugins and how did I use them to create something interesting like this. Is the first one is the flanger, even if it's not first in the chain, but it doesn't matter because the first automation. So I'm using the flanger from Cubase because I can use the manual mode. It means that I can create all the movement manually, which gives me opportunity to write automation of the movement on the flanger. So what I did over here, I just automated the lowest point of the flanger modulation till the maximum one, and then going back, as you can see in this shape over here. And I was automating the feedback as well, but I think I have deleted that automation right now. So the second thing I used over here is a black hole. As we all know that there are some type of reverb, while we change the size, it is like changing the pitch. I'm not gonna go in depth about that, but I'm gonna explain that in some of the other videos. If we change the size on the black hole, it will like changing the pitch, and this is exactly what I wanted to do over here. So what I did as well, I'm gonna bypass the flanger for now. So generally I'm automating the size up and down, and that way creates slight of like the change on the pitch on the tail. So this is the second plugin that I use, time plugin that I use in order to create this artificial or this psychedelic effect. And with the flanger together it sounds like this. Now, as you can see, it's clipping, but I forgot to explain that the first in the chain I used standard clip. Just I wanted to reduce those peaks. So I wanted to limit them or to burn them out, because I don't need those peaks or the transients on a sequence like this, because I have a lot of hi-hats as well. But in general, lately I'm trying to soften up all the transients on all of my sounds, beside kicking the bass. So on kicking the bass I will keep them sharp and tight, while I really feel that everything sounds much better if I burn the peaks totally, not totally, but at some decent level to the most of the sequence in my tracks. And that way I also don't need to pay attention does limiter is destroying anything, and also it sounds more polite, more softer and nicer in some way. But this is a topic for another video. So I have here to -11.2, as I just wanted to burn out those peaks straight away after the first in the chain, after the sound gets out of the serum. Now, because I'm gonna turn one by one, I didn't do the proper gain staging after all of those plugins, and as I'm using and as we are adding more and more, but when I turn them all, you will see that the gain stage will be pretty good on the end. So this is why it might happen that it's gonna peak in some moments. So I'm gonna reduce the volume for now. So this is a flanger with a reverb, and then I use a delay. So what I did on a delay, I set the dry and wet. So I have automated shitload of, as you can see over here, of the feedback. So feedback is going like all the way up and down. And also I have created the automation of a delay time, which is over here, but you cannot see it because it's really small. Usually I go like the lowest point is until here, which is 5.2 milliseconds, and the maximum point, 35 milliseconds. So I'm automating in a length of 4 bars. So it goes from 35 milliseconds going down to 5 and then coming up. So it's creating like the standard waveform. It's more triangle shape, but it doesn't matter. So it goes from 35 milliseconds to 5 milliseconds and then going up to 35, all in length of 8 bars. I think I'm gonna turn all of them off just so you can understand what the delay is doing over here. So by using the time plugins, I'm creating a really interesting movement, and there's a slight change in the pitch as well. This is the feeling that it's creating as the change of the time. We could do the math, because we know that the frequency, that every note has a frequency. So we will take A because it's a round number, so it's 55, like the lowest one. We're gonna say A1 is at 55 hertz, and by understanding what hertz is just the number of oscillation in a second. So if we divide that frequency by the number, we can actually get the length in milliseconds of one oscillation, and then we can apply that number of milliseconds into any sound, and we will get something similar, as we will have the repetition of some oscillations or some movement. In this case, it's going to be a small plucks, and if we repeat that on exactly the number of the sum note, we can get the tonality as well. This is why moving this, it's like the pitch is changing. This is what we are hearing. If I move it to the wet 100%. And if feedback was steady, you will hear much better. But anyway, so I'm just adding like 30% of modulation over here. So mono delay, flanger, and black hole. Of course, it's clipping again because the signal is now louder, so. Alright, so what I'm doing after that is I'm just compressing the mid, everything that's in the middle, because I already mentioned this several times. So as the kick and bass are taking the most of the space in the middle and they're gonna be super loud, I'm always compressing everything on all the other sounds watching in the middle only. And that way I'm making the compromise, like I'm not touching the side where I keep all the dynamic, and I'm compressing the middle where I want to have to save some space for the kick and the bass. And by doing so, I also increase a little bit of stereo, which is also nice, as most of the space in the middle is gonna be taken by kick and the bass. So there's gonna be a lot of space from a side, which I'm gonna push all the other sides on a side, while kick and bass are gonna sit in the middle. So after that, I have a Saturn, which I use in a broken tube mode. I know it's changed a lot, it adds a little bit of flows, etc, etc. It's okay, but I don't care because it sounds really nice, and I'm also trying to burn out some peaks and to create a little bit of more analog feeling sounds, as broken tube is gonna change the color of the sounds pretty much. After that, I have a M phaser. This is a phaser from Melda Production, which is one of my favorite companies when it comes for bundles and all the what they are making. And in this plugin I have a 20% dry and wet, and I have made some movement on these shapes over here. As you can see, it's nothing special, -5 feedback, etc, just to create additional movement as well. And after that, the loop operator. I love using this plugin and all the multi-effects, but I'm gonna make one video about only multi-effects plugins. But for this video, I'm just gonna say that usually I go to loop operator and create some interesting preset, and that way I'm just gonna keep it just to have this pattern way of repetitions. And now we're coming to the point of one of the previous videos where I spoke about envelopes for a better mix, is that I spoke a lot about the shapes, and now because I use a lot of time plugins, a lot of tails have been created, and there's not much of the envelope of the original sound that's coming out from a serum. And that's why I always like to use the Lfo Tool, as this is the plugin that I love to use. There's also like Selberg volume shapers, etc. But I'm really use Lfo Tool, and I use it a lot. So I'm just gonna use it on 1/16 and create the gating effect, and I probably did some, yeah. As you can see, I have automated this as well, and this way I'm changing the envelope so it sounds a bit more interesting there, so there's an additional movement as well. So I'm automating the volume, so how much this envelope will affect that sound, and also the shape of the envelope by moving this middle dot over here. And all of that is recorded in automations over here. And then on the end, this plugin I really like. This is the newest one that I bought, is the Amatite Crystals. I was using a lot from sound toys like this crystallizer, but this one is similar, and I'm really huge fan of Eventide, and I'm gonna do a bit more of the videos explaining their products because there's insane amount of them. I was a huge fan of Eventide from a long time ago, since I understood that like the Spongle music and most of the music from Simon Posford, he was using this Age 7000 I think series, and which is a multi-effect. And also I had the opportunity to work with some of the hardware gear from Eventide, and I can say that their products are really one of the top on the market out there. I still didn't touch most of them. I'm trying and I'm testing one by one, so I'm gonna come back in some of the next videos, but pay attention on some of their products as well, as they are doing a pretty good job. So honestly, I believe that Eventide is really threatening to other companies to be my main like bundle company. So from this, which you can do in a serum, I could do like some with the effects over here, etc., to create some similar thing. But by using a different plugins as integrated plugins in the Cubase, which you can do as well, Cubase, Ableton, it doesn't matter. So only the Flanger can be problematic, as I got a lot of requests and questions like which are the third-party plugins outside of Cubase plugins that have this manual feature inside, and I believe that Eventide Flanger is having that one, but you need to check that one. Don't hold me for granted because I'm not sure, but this is an information that just came to my mind that I forgot to mention in the previous videos. Anyway, so from the synthesis to something like this. And also another thing what I did over here, as I used as well I sent all of that to the group, and then I sent the gatekeeper, because as what I did as well is duplicating this channel and then changing the oscillator in Serum and changing some of the filters. I got different results as well, so I tried to combine them, but on the end I just kept this one as it's already complicated enough. And what I did on the group, I used the gatekeeper, as you can see, and with the gatekeeper I tried to make this pattern is really nice. So I spent a lot of time to create this pattern. So this plugin I use mostly when I want to create longer gating patterns, in comparing with Lfo Tool. Lfo Tool I will do for 16ths, 1/4, for 1 bar if I need some modulation on 1 bar only. But if I need for longer, I'm gonna use the gatekeeper, because we can extend and create longer patterns. Also, if I just delete like several dots, it can be on not matching and it's gonna repeat like on 7/8 or etc. So it's much easier for me. So what I did over here, that was the first thing. Another thing is another compression with the mids. Another looperator over here. But it's 34% wet, as it doesn't create that much of an effect. And then this trick is maybe the main one. Actually, no, it's not manipulator. So this one I decided not to use, but I Wish plugin is something really nice, and it's maybe the unique plugin and the only one that I know that is doing exactly that thing. So for you who are listening Psytrance for a longer time, there's a track from Infected Mushroom which is called I Wish, and I advise you to check it if you don't know it already. So there's a really nice effect on the voice, but I'm gonna keep that for one of the next videos, as this video is already going to be super long and I think that this is complicated already enough. So next video is gonna be about I Wish plugin and how did I make a really nice or something interesting like this. So let me just play it to you. So it is extra modulation on this sequence as well. So thank you very much for watching and see you soon with another video. Bye. Ciao.